Okay, here we are in the MB339. Bear with me on this aeroplane, only for one circuit, and then we'll get on to the bigger stuff and look at some more advanced circuits. The reason we're doing this is just so we can look at how the wind actually affects us as we fly our circuit. We've got a crosswind coming right to left. Check out that windsock. It's at 10 meters per second, which is actually 20 knots. It's actually 19. But Cam's top tip here, just take your meters per second, double it, and you get close enough to your knots. My little brain works on that. 19 knots is 20 knots when it comes to crosswind circuits. So the crosswind is all across, known as a tightener. Opposite of that would be a slackener, a lot easier to do, makes the circuits look untidy, but easier to deal with. It's the tightener, the one that will grab you and make it difficult. So this will be a right-hand circuit. Apply some power, holding it on the brakes, and I'm going to release, and let's see what happens. If you're new to the aviation world and inexperienced, you'd expect my nose to go right to left. Hang on, it's going left to right. That is because we're weathercocking. So what I'm doing here is applying some rudder. It isn't working yet because we're not fast enough. I'm just going to apply a dab of brake to bring me back to the centre line. We've only got about 80% power. We have no intention of taking off just yet. We're just having a look at some of the effects of the control. So that rudder is now effective, and I'm just kind of steering the aeroplane with rudder. So I'm getting it effective at about 75 knots. The odd dab of brake. Let's see what happens when we take off. But before we do, I'm thinking about a little bit of interwind aileron. And the reason for that, stop the wing picking up. And I want you to look closely what happens to the controls as we get ourselves airborne. So let's apply that full power. We should have enough rudder authority. There we go. We stop using brake now. Power's good. Speed's good. Up we go. Gently feeding everything off to come away from being all skewed and cross-controlled. Gear comes up. Flaps come up. Engine's good. Take a bit of power off to stay in the circuit. Okay, we're staying at 500 feet. Why 500 feet? This will be what the first thing we're going to talk about, which is the low-level circuit, the first of our different types of circuit. Practice these fairly extensively in the military, and you do use them from time to time. And the reason is we've got a 1,000-foot cloud base here, or about 900 feet. So 1,000, let's call it. We've come in visually to the airfield. We've not had to speak to a radar controller. We've not had to do a radar to ILS or a radar to PAR. That saves fuel. It's quite an expeditious way to get ourselves back on the ground. The cloud base is 800 feet. Why not do this at 700 or 800, let's say? Well, we practice all our flying career in the military to do these things at 500 feet. So let's do what we know works. Let's do what we've practiced, trained for. So I'm doing it at 500 feet, and I would always do it at 500 feet. And if you can't do it at 500 feet, then you've got no business of being in the circuit, to be perfectly honest, but there you go. So it's pretty much the practical minimum. That may be written down in a rule book somewhere in your flying order book. Other airfields may differ. Okay, gear flap, they're all in the right place. We've caught that. Everything's under control. Fuel's good. Looking for our pitch in point. Harder to see sometimes in a low level circuit, but it's also harder to see when you've got the crosswind on as well, because the nose is canted left. Right, making the turn, staying level. Ooh, I've crept the height up a little bit. Still applying full flap, getting fully configured for the approach. Get back to my 500 feet. Now remember, if you've seen Circuits Part 1, we do this turn and we achieve 650 halfway around. Well, we can't do that because we're at 500. But what we do is we imagine where we would be at 500 feet, which is just a little bit past the halfway point. So that's about now. Dab a power off, fly the aeroplane. Careful I don't use too much angle of bank. Always use your angle of bank available to you, or your alpha available to you early on in that finals turn, because once you've reached your maximum, whatever that is, you can't do any more. You'll either stall the jet, break a rule, it'll bleat at you, or the fly-by-wire won't let you. Here we are then, 300 foot point at 300 feet. I've allowed it, unfortunately, because I'm a bit gashed today, I've allowed it to drift me downwind a little bit. I've got to claw that back. But as I came around that turn, I was constantly thinking I need my nose pointed to the right to put my backside along the runway centre line. Okay, 2 reds, 2 whites, dipping into 3 reds, as we've discussed. That is allowed in a fast jet because we aim for the numbers. That's not the touchdown point that the pappies are pointing at. I'm not going to kick off the drift. I'm going to ease off the drift with a pressure on the rudder and apply some aileron to keep the wing down. Like so. Flare, rudder, aileron. Look at that. The rudder has to stay on. Bit of aileron to stop the wing picking up. Probably not modelled brilliantly in DCS. Can't really speak for that. Let's let go and see what happens. Nah, not really. But we are quite slow now, only about 80 knots. There we go. Let's move on to some other types. Right, we're in the Mirage 2000 now, demonstrating a low-level circuit in the Mirage 2000, but also that Crosswinds circuit. Things will be slightly different. This is a very squirrely aeroplane on the ground, you'll see. And why am I flying this? Well, it's an easier jet to fly, isn't it? It's fly-by-wire, manoeuvre demand type system. It responds very nicely to thrust. Easy angle of attack on finals, great gauge. Round the corner then. Gears down, we call our final turn. Dab of power just to control the AOA and keep the budgie on the horizon because we've got a head-up display. Look how it shifts around though with the wind. Now we need to apply as much of our angle of attack and angle of bank as we're allowed, otherwise you can't apply it at the end because you'll bust a limit if there is one on your airframe. But aiming for that 650 halfway round to be slightly above us, about now is when I'd be at 500, so that's the whole premise of this circuit, remember. So start that gentle descent in and start thinking about being over the 300-foot point with your backside lined up against the runway centre line, or towards the runway centre line, and also the nose pointing to the right. So I'm starting to anticipate that requirement to have the nose off to the right as I come round the corner here. So I'm using my pappies, 2 reds, 2 whites. Remember, I'm allowed 3 reds and a white for our sort of 2.5 degree shallow approach that we like, slipping into 4 reds when touchdown is assured. Because I'm not really looking at them then. So here we are, nose is pointed to the right. I did still slip a little bit downwind. Check we've got the angle of attack under control. Getting to our touchdown point. Still drifting in the wrong direction. Nearly there. Touchdown. Not pretty in a wind. Bit of aileron. I'm going to put the nose wheel down and look at this. I'm using a lot of rudder here. Stroke nose wheel steering. Certainly rudder to keep myself straight. Look what happens when I put the chute out. Feel that effect. Because obviously it's catching all the air, but it does stop us quite nicely, doesn't it? Ditch the chute. And taxi off the runway. Takeaway points from that then. It's a lot easier on an aeroplane with a nice HUD, isn't it? Can be quite difficult on the handling on the initial touchdown in a wind. You have to fly the aeroplane the whole way to this stop, or to the turn off the runway. And even then you'll have wind limits of things like opening canopies and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the Mirage 2000. Let's look at something else. Okay, here we are in the F4, end of the downwind leg, low level circuit. And a great comparison, my mate Steve, who used to fly these, he tells me flying the F4 is like flying a multi-gym. I mean, check it out. The stick is all over the place, isn't it? Right, here we are, low level circuit, 500 feet. I'm a bit low there. No HUD to help. 500 feet. Coming around, 650 halfway around is a normal place. That would be above us as we get halfway around. So remember, interpolating, imagining where the 500-foot point would be to begin the descent round. I think it's about there, so a bit of power coming off, not too much. There's our AOA. Look at that, how quickly we get into the wrong AOA if we're not careful. Looking around all the ironwork in the cockpit. Still feeling that flying sideways coming on at the moment. So remember, what we need to do is get ourselves in the groove at the normal 300-foot point and point that nose to the right. Get in the groove at the 300-foot point. Looks good to me. Getting the nose off to the right. The inertia's taking us through, but it's doable. now here we are coming around on finals. The wind does change in DCS as you get lower, of course. It becomes a little bit less. I've taken too much. The inertia of this aeroplane causes difficulties at times. Not too much power. Get ready to plant it on the runway. Get rid of the drift. It could take it without getting rid of the drift. Many airplanes can, even airliners can, but for a bit of finesse we like to do it. Lots of aileron in there.
Dude, where's my car?
So here we go. That's Jester being ever so helpful. Let's get the chute out and check out what happens. There's the weathercock. I can feel the chutes come out without even looking. Bit of diff brake there as well. I don't want to put the nose wheel steering in just yet. The point I'm making here, guys, is you so need to just fly this aeroplane all the way down to the stop. That's it. Let's get rid of the chute. Taxi in. Tea and medals.